Hello and welcome to Public Conscience. The program draws attention to issues of good governance, citizen participation, and corruption. The program is brought by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMORG, in partnership with the MacArthur Foundation. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya with Adaobi Obiabumu.
Thanks for joining us for you. The spelling of PRIMORG is PRIMORG.
On Public Conscience, we seek to increase the level of accountability in governance and promote citizens' active participation and involvement to hold leaders accountable. We raise issues of national importance to increase your consciousness as a citizen.
In today's program, we will continue to look at the strategic role of media in strengthening Nigeria's democracy and factors militating against the fourth estate of the realm from living up to its important obligation.
The role played by the media in sustaining Nigeria's democracy cannot be overemphasized. Besides its primary responsibilities of entertaining, enlightening, and informing society with accurate facts, the media provides link between the government and the people, act as government watchdog, influence public opinion, and mobilizes citizens.
Despite all of this, sadly, today the Nigerian media is grappling with an array of challenges limiting it from playing its roles as enshrined in the Constitution. Some of the challenges include its independence, poor remuneration and welfare of the practitioners, advent of technology, and the alarm raised by many citizens over the misuse of the Cybercrime Act. However, President Bola Tinubu, during his Democracy Day address in a joint session to mark the 2025 Democracy Day, urged security agents not to harass citizens for criticizing his government. The president also noted that malicious slander and libel must not go unpunished.
Meanwhile, the embassies of the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Finland, Norway, in a joint statement, urged the federal government to stop the misuse of Cybercrime Act, stating that it is undermining democratic advancement and civic participation in the country. It is worthy of note that the original aim of Cybercrime Act was to prevent fraud and cyber terrorism, but it is now being used to suppress dissent and undermine free speech. But for you out there, how satisfied are you with the role the media has played over the years in strengthening our democracy? How well has the media fared in playing its watchdog role? How can the media overcome its many challenges in strengthening Nigeria's democracy? What do you make of concerns raised by citizens over the misuse of Cybercrime Act to suppress dissent and undermine free speech? And will you also align with those calling for the Cybercrime Act to be amended by the National Assembly going forward?
Well, be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message.
So begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 09022656167. That is 09022656167. We will give out the numbers to call shortly.
For those who just joined us, the focus is on the democracy in Nigeria and the strategic role of media in strengthening nation's democracy. We will be examining factors militating against the media in playing its important role as enshrined in the Constitution, and also look at concerns by foreign missions and some citizens over the use of the Cybercrime Act to suppress dissent and undermine free speech.
To expand this conversation, we are joined by two top media practitioners, heavyweights I call them this morning, the General Secretary of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Iyobasa Owujaren. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
And also a seasoned media consultant, Angelica Mary Jane Udo. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, let's get straight to it. Let's start with Dr. Owujaren. You have been around for decades in the media industry. Let's have your assessment of the place of media in Nigeria's democracy and the limitations of practitioners in promoting democracy.
Okay, first, for us to be able to appreciate the role of the media, maybe we have to look at it from the constitutional responsibility of the media and the social responsibility of the media. Now, if you look at the constitutional responsibility of the media in Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution, it says the media, or journalists if you like, shall at all time hold public officer accountable to the people. And that is a huge responsibility. It's a constitutional responsibility. Now, if you also look at the social responsibility of the media, that of informing the society, educating the society, warning society against danger, mobilizing the people for action to be part of the governance process, mobilizing them for election when and maybe when there's also a issue of national issues, the media also have that responsibility to mobilize the citizens in support of that. For those of you who understand very well the development communication process. So, looking at it from both social and constitutional responsibilities, it's obvious that the media, has a huge role to play in society, especially under a democratic setting. Now, for the media to be able to play that role, there are certain conditions, there are certain um, things that we need to have. One, we need the enabling environment to be able to, play that role very well. When I'm talking about the enabling environment, I'm talking about a very stable economy where the media can also function effectively. We're also talking about a society where you don't have obnoxious law, that hinder the operation of of the media, and you also have a very strong media, to be able to discharge independent, responsibility, without relying on people to dictate what they should do and what they should not do. So if we have a very strong media with enough economic capacity and we have the free environment for them to operate, we can say that the media can do that job. I mean, the question we should ask ourselves, do we have that enabling environment today? Well, there might be different views as far as that issue is concerned. If you look at the state of our economy today, virtually all sectors, are affected. And don't forget that the media is also a player in that media environment. So much so that the ability to discharge their responsibility independently is gradually, reducing almost on a daily basis. If you go to some media houses today, many of them are not able to pay salary. Many of them are not able to, empower the reporters to be able to discharge their responsibility effectively. And so, on that note, they will have to rely on the handouts coming from private sectors, rely on advert coming from private sectors, uh, you know, um, handout coming from politicians. So, like we all know, he who paid the pipe dictated the tune. So, when a company give you adverts, public sector give you an advert. So, in a way, by the time they start misbehaving, you will not have the moral responsibility, to do your job
to hold
independently,
them accountable.
just like the politics today. So, if you look at so many media houses today, they can't function without handout from private sectors. They can't function without handout from government institutions.
And it's a serious blight on our democracy.
Yeah, so, and the question we should ask ourselves, within that context, can media function independently? Can they function effectively? And that is from the economic point of view. Now, if you also look at the the laws, that so many laws that we have in society, there are so many laws, many of them that we inherited from colonial era, that hinder independent press, that hinder freedom of the press, that hinder access to information. Many of them are still in our statutory book today. So much so that the President National Assembly, when we came on board in 1999, inherited those colonial laws, including military decrees. Because they were not repealed, they have become part of our. They are now become part of. Out of Parliament. So they are there, and there are so many. There are so many, and so, and not to talk of the recent one, the Cybercrime Act. I remember on our part, I'm talking of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, we've engaged security agencies, we've engaged federal government on this issue. We've also engaged foreign missions, to help put pressure on the government to make sure that that act is amended, in line with the global best practices. Luckily, some time ago, the senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, went to ECOWAS court, and the ECOWAS court nullified that controversial sections of the Cybercrime Act, and National Assembly also amended it. But in spite of the amendment, in spite of the fact that I'm talking of Section 54
Yeah,
of
there's
that act,
still the outcry
in
is
spite
still
of
there.
that, the police still arrest people, still charge them to court, relying on that section of the Cybercrime Act. So for us, I think that is where we should focus on now. That for us to have a robust democracy, for us to have democracies, for citizens to be able to participate in democracies effectively, people should be able to express their view
But
in a very
let's
responsible and civilized manner without any hindrance, either through government censorship, or through any act of parliament.
But if you compare the media the way it is now, given the different laws to guard the media, do you think that the media has fared well compared to pro-democracy era during the military era?
I mean, because this same media fought for democracy.
I agree. I was part of that. I was part of that process. Some of us were detained during the military era. When at that time I was with the news magazines and Tempo, and some of us were detained as a result of our. At that point in time, I think we should not mix up the era during the military era and the semi democracy we have. During the military era, we all agreed that we had common enemy that we need to fight. The media, the civil society group, political elite, even the political elite who are part of the problem, we all agreed that we had a common enemy that we must fight. And that fight, we fought that battle to the extent that at the point some political elite went to exile, including the president today, who is the president of Nigeria, was part of that democratic process. And the labor groups were decimated. The political elite were almost chased out of the country. The two stakeholders that remained consistent then was the civil society group and the media. So they were very, very effective. And so having succeeded in pushing the ministry back to the barrack, and we thought that those things we fought for, will be further deepened. But unfortunately, when the military guys were leaving, those who worked with them when they were in power, took over the power. And so by the time we realized it became very impossible for us to engage them. So while the military left, those who worked with them, also took over power. And that's why if you look at the 1999 government, many of them, almost 90% of them who worked with the military were all lawmakers. They were all senators. They were all House of Reps members. Many of them were governors, young men then. Yeah, you remember Lucky Benedict of Edo State. You remember James Ibori of Delta State. You remember Ojizokalo of Abia State. Young men. And these are people with all due respect, these are people who work, closely with the military while they were in power. If you go to the National Assembly, there you have the likes of Karagwada B. So many of them, they were all part of the military. These are people who were organizing Abacha Must Stay rally, and by the time the military left, they took over power. So by the time we started engaging them, we discovered that there was no between the military and them.
Perhaps you took your eyes off the ball, and that's why the guys have to take over. But let's bring in Mary Jane, Angoleka Mary Jane, who is a media consultant.
Yes, it's good to have you join us, Angoleka.
Thank you once again.
From your own perspective, what do you think are the main factors militating or limiting the media from strengthening democracy in Nigeria?
Okay, I totally agree with what my senior colleague has said. Because first of all, I like to even have us analyze what this democracy of ours is. Because a lot of people still believe that it's either we're not practicing democracy in its fullness, or democracy is not even Africa and Nigeria is not ripe for democracy. Because just like one of the points he raised, people who try to fight against a particular issue ended up doing worse, if not so. So it's almost like the system is not working, and then you have some arms that are supposed to help checkmate the system coming into that system to try to function. The media is supposed to be like the fourth estate in government. Those days they will tell you like checks and balances here and there. But how do you get to check somebody that lords over you. Now, here is the thing. In fact, it's more complicated in this era where we have the new media. Those days, we practically rely on the regular
Hard copy.
media to break news. And for whatever they say, we accept because we are all in the dark until you hear that breaking news. But these days, even the real media depend on the new media for their information. Of course, you agree with me that nowadays everybody's on social media here and there, and people really verify information before they put it out there. So it's a two-way thing. While it might seem as though there's no independence of media, the government is also trying to fight so hard to ensure that some people don't throw people off balance with the form of information that they bring on board. So if you ask me about maybe how has it fared in terms of media independency and democracy and all of that, I think we are still evolving. We have not gotten there. There's a lot of factors that are still restricting the media houses and the journalists and the media agencies here and there, of which, if you have to thrive in Nigeria, let's be very sincere. You somehow the rules and regulations guiding your society still has a role to play. Now, he rightly mentioned that some people are not even able to pay staff, and there are some rules, intentional rules that governments will make to force out any media platform, out of business.
Can you pinpoint anyone? Can you mention anyone?
Yeah, I think one or two of these. I wouldn't want to mention their names, but I know of a very big media outfit that is shutting down. If not, they've even come out to announce that they cannot pay maybe their licenses and all of that. And some of these people are supposed to be like indigene. They're supposed to be like indigenous platforms. And you see our government favoring external media outfits because maybe those ones are able to pay taxes and whatsoever, as against the ones who are supposed to be internally. So you see people compromising because probably you have one politician or somebody who is funding a particular media outfit. We've seen these things. And as such, people are not independent. Some of the media
Owners.
owners are not independent. We know of particular outfits that are like, if you're not in maybe a particular political party, you are not able to get jobs. And if you have, just like you have us on your station now, we will not be free to talk about some things because behind the scene you get to warn us that they might shut you down, or maybe probably the information will not even be aired for the fear that they will come shut you down. So there's really no freedom when it comes to media, total freedom, because like I rightly said, the democracy that we practice, it's either we are not right for it or we are not even sincerely practicing that democracy. So there's a lot that needs to be done if we must really allow the media to play that, whether it's the social functions or the constitutional functions. Thank you.
But
Okay.
let me
Okay,
quickly
go on.
come in, Anwuli.
Yeah.
But there are people out there who believe that they would rather get their information from other platforms instead of the mainstream media because they believe that the media is self-censored. Because when you listen at times, the media houses, just like you highlighted, because of restrictions from government, they may not put out the absolute correct information, if you permit me to use that.
Yeah.
So some people don't rely on the media. They would rather get the information from somewhere else. What do you think the media needs to do to correct that?
Well, you are 100% correct. I wouldn't even want to say 98% or 99. You are, because, like I said, before now, it's almost like we were so naive that we rely 100% on some, especially the government-owned media outfits. Whatever they say stands. And as such, government had this power because media is very powerful. The narrative that the media gives has a way of, changing or making or mind any society. Now, with the invention of the new media, government, I think, is losing that grip. So there's tension in the system as well. But as much as we have, there's this kind of positive impact made by some of this new media. Because truly, if I want to confirm some information, maybe you have some news trending here and there. I know one or two blog sites that I can check. If they've not posted it,
Trusted, right?
yes, I wouldn't believe it until I see it there. Even the regular media platforms, if they've not said it on one or two platforms, I wouldn't believe it. That's to show that some of them still hold that integrity. And we will not deny the fact that there are a lot of them out there who try to, like, in fact, they say bad news sells and controversy sells. Most of them try to use these things to draw traffic for themselves. So
Looking for clicks.
it's now left on the ones that are still standing either you are being financed by the government or a private one, because we still know the ones that still, to an extent, maintain integrity, that know that there's something at stake for them, if not for just the general public, for their stakeholders. Because somebody will be held accountable if you allow anything that is not supposed to fly to fly. So, in that way, yes, there are other people that I these days I do not really believe in everything that I see on some TV or read or hear on some radio stations until I confirm it on some sites. Because trust me, whether you like it or not, some of these new medias have taken their jobs to the next level, that even the protocols you get to pass before you have to post anything on their site. I have experienced one or two of them. Do you understand? So it's not everything you post. They have to verify, because somebody somewhere is seated trying to also checkmate
To fact check.
and fact check them.
I
Yes.
must bring in Dr. Yevosa because he should be worried. The Nigerian Guild of Editors should be worried about the new media and what all it brings. And I don't know how much of a concern it has been to the guild, and what is being done to also checkmate. She talked about fact checking, and how much trouble is this causing to democracy?
Now, let me say these things. I've listened to her, but let me say that in spite of the challenges the media is having today, recent research, have indicated that the platforms still remain the most credible people that people rely on to access credible information.
The old guard.
Yes, I'm talking of the television, radio stations, legacy newspapers. They still remain platforms that people, access credible information from. That is not to, reduce the impact of the social media. Where people call it social media, but I'm aware of some scholars who call it social platform, not social media. Because for you to refer to a platform as media, there are rules, guiding the conduct of that platform. I agree. It's all over the world. Because of technology, almost about 70% of citizens, rely on social platform to get their stories from. Because the whole idea is that you sit there in the comfort of your bedroom, and you don't need to buy newspapers. You don't need to buy, these tuned radio televisions. You just access information. They put the informations on your phone, and you access it there immediately. But let me also use this opportunity to say that I'm also a teacher, journalism in the Faculty of Communications and Media Studies, University of Abuja. And I keep on telling my students, even my reporter in the office, that you don't rely on social media to tell your stories. Because while journalists are trained to process news, there are processes you follow to be able to determine what is newsworthy and what you should put on there. There are ethical values, ethical conduct that you must abide with to be able to assess stories, materials, and then later put it on the papers, on radio, on televisions. But social media, anybody that has a very good phone like my sisters can be a journalist. And so it is now left for us. That's why I said, don't rely on social media to tell your stories. But social media platform could be a clue for you. For example, if I see a story now, that there's a fire incident, somebody just say, I just passed through Wagolada now. There was an auto crash, about 20 people died. I'm not going to just pick that information and slap it on Kiss FM, just like that. All I need to do is to send my reporter there, go there, check out. This is the clue I just got from social media. Go there, check out, verify what is happening. Maybe getting there, they must have left the incident, they must have cleared the incident. All you need to do as a good reporter is to talk to eyewitness, then later go to the police who were there when the incident happened. The police will tell you, yes, it is true that 10 were confirmed that the other people were rushed to the hospital at Gogolada. So all you need to do is go to Gogolada Hospital, find out from medical director how many people were rushed there. You will say, 5 people were rushed there, but just 2 minutes ago, 1 or 2 persons died. So by the time you pass through this process as a reporter, confirm, cross-check. So at the end of the day, you have a credible information that you can put out there. But the social media people, they don't have time. They will just tell them, they will tell them something happened before you know it. It's on the Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on the TikTok. So and that's why I said
No verification.
no verification. They don't have disciplines of verification.
Yeah.
But as someone who has been on this job, yes, social media is very good for us, but it's a clue, not a reliable source of information. Anything you get from social media, you must verify. You must verify it. I'm talking from talking from experience. there was something that was, I had to sack my reporter recently. There was something that happened when they were going to deliver the judgment of Edo State Tribunal. Remember the Court of Appeal? Somebody said they started circulating one judgment, that the judgment leaked. They reported it in all the, in fact, some even newspapers reported that stories.
They had to do
A judgment that was not signed. You use the story and you attribute it to judges. At the end of the day, when they say there was a split vote, but the next day when there was a judgment, there was no split vote at all. And I asked, but where did you get the story from? Unfortunately, I traveled. I couldn't. There wasn't. I said, where did you get the story from? Although it was not used in our paper, but for submitting the story to me for editing, I was shocked. I said, for relying on social media to write that story without verifying, then that's unpardonable sin. And I gave him a query. I was not satisfied with his query, and I fired him. So the point I am making is that, in spite of the challenges the media is facing today, they still remain. It's not my personal opinion. There are research, different research from different credible institutions, that the legacy media, I'm talking about newspapers, radio, television, still remain a credible source of information. But I'm not downplaying the role of social media.
Okay, before we open the phone line, just like you highlighted the incredible role played by the media in terms of holding the government accountable, we have investigative journalists, we have public interest investigations. But because the government knows about the important role of the media, they use the strategic litigation against public participation, SLAP suits, to harass, or they come up with frivolous cases filed against the media to drain their finances, intimidate the media, and also divert attention from corruption cases. What has the media done in this regard to ensure that they are not
people are not caught up in slap
suits?
Well, the issue, is not new. It's not new. Let me give you an example. In 1995, when I was reporting for the news magazines during the Otokodos, you remember the Otokodo saga in Imo State? So I was Imo State reporting the story from our platform, and at the end of the day, I did a story about a prominent politician. He's late now. I don't want to mention his name, from the southeast, trying to link him, and the story was Tokoto, Susu politicians, the link. I did that story. It was based on facts and figure, and I have all the documents. But because the man was not very comfortable with it, he wanted to stop the news magazines for further reporting the stories, and he got a very prominent lawyer to institute 1 billion naira suit against me. That was 1995. Remember, 1 billion. And if you quantify all our assets, it's not up to half of that money. Wow. So eventually, Femi Falana, who was our lawyer then, he invited me to Lagos. We went there, we met, and said, do you have facts? I said, yes. Can you bring facts? So eventually, I came up with a picture where he took with all those the people who were involved in Otokoto and all that. And the next day, we slammed it in our cover story for the news magazine. The next day, the man came back and said, look, can we settle out of court? So, and that is because I have all the facts, And the man said, let's settle out of court. I say, now you are talking, we can settle out of court. So it's been like that. There are some dirty politicians, corrupt public officers, who want to use that slap, to intimidate reporters, to intimidate journalists. I also remember when I did the cover story on the Salisu Buhari, the first Speaker of House of Reps in 1999, over his certificate saga. And it was titled The Face of a Liar, that eventually led to his removal. The story was true. But initially, the man got the late SAN, Chief Rotimi William, they call him the law. And the man, said he slammed about 500 million naira against us. Just to intimidate us from further reporting the story. But because I have my facts, I keep on digging on the matter until the man confessed that he actually lied about his age and he forged his certificate. He apologized to Nigeria and resigned. Exactly. So the point I'm making is that such law are used to intimidate lawyers. Recently, the Guild, in partnership with the IPI, we had a robust conversations around these issues, and we had the conversation with editors and all that. The whole idea was that we should not allow slaps, to prevent journalists from discharging their responsibilities. And we said what we can do is also partner with NBA, so that whenever there is that suit, we can have support from the NBA who will discharge that responsibility for the media free of charge or with little cost.
But how well informed are journalists out there? At your level, you are very much informed about slap suits. How well informed? The information, does it cut across every
Yeah,
journalist
yes,
out there?
that's what I said. We had with editors on a regular basis. We had conversations around these issues on a regular basis, and they are aware. And what we keep on saying is that if you do your job as a journalist, following all the ethical conduct, having disciplines of verification, be sure that what you are writing is true, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. When they institute that suit against you, you are standing on the solid ground to be able to defend yourself. And sometimes there are lawyers today, courtesy of the Nigerian Guild of Editors and other media institutions, who can rally around and provide you with free legal services to be able to defend yourself. But what we don't even encourage, bad journalism. What I mean bad journalism, unethical journalism, harassing journalists, trying to blackmail journalists, and at the end of the day you are sued and you're not calling for help. We don't encourage that on the part of Nigerian Guild of Editors. But if somebody deliberately institute a legal suit against you because he wants to intimidate you or stop you from furthering deep into his dirty activities, and that's where the Nigerian Guild of Editors comes in and say, look, yeah, we have this story is credible. Wherever they want to go, we'll go. We are ready to help the organization to provide legal services for that newspapers or the editor to defend his or her case.
All
So
right.
we are doing that.
All right, it's good to know you are doing that. It's said that facts are sacred, so we must make sure that journalists know this. That you hold on to your facts. When your facts are right, nobody can intimidate
Yes,
you
you're
off
standing on
it.
solid ground.
I'll come to you shortly, Angoleka, but let's quickly open the phone line. Dr. Zoe.
Just to also remind you that you can follow us on our social media platforms at Official PRIMORG. PRIMORG again is spelled PRIMORG. Remember that we are streaming live on Facebook at Official PRIMORG.
And remember that this program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 09022656167. That is 09022656167. And we urge you to start now to send your messages. Start sending your messages so that we can have them read out here. Do you have a message already?
Yes, we have a message from Yemi from Jos, and it says, "Good morning, PRIMORG. Great show as always. The media is the fourth estate of the realm, only on paper for educational purposes. What can the NBC do to free the media?" Our guest will respond to that. Let's have Angole respond to the message from Yemi, and says, "What can NBC do to free the media?"
Like I'll say, I mean, I still do not believe that the media can be totally freed if the government is not sincere. Here's why. When he was talking, he said something. In fact, he can be one out of 10,000 other media platforms, either public or private owned, that are sincerely trying to uphold integrity in the media space inside of a society where democracy is not still being practiced accurately. So it's difficult. Imagine now that very young man or lady who has been sacked because he's not able to do the right thing has maybe a better offer where integrity is not even an issue. What do you think? So we've lost somebody who would have even learned from one of the best into another place where anything goes. Now here's the thing.
But the
Yeah.
action serves as a deterrent.
It's a deterrent, yes, agreed. But that's why I said he's just one out of so many. It's not like sometimes it's not like they don't know what to do. It's a situation where if you cannot beat them, you join them because we have to pay our bills. This is why things are not working in Nigeria. Media is just an aspect of other institutions that are not working in Nigeria. And this is because our democracy, I'll keep saying it, is still not, it's that we are not ripe for democracy that we practice, or we are just practicing our own. Maybe it should not be called democracy. Because you cannot, in fact, these things even extend to the judicial arm of government. You cannot call me independent and you are still influencing a lot of things. You're making laws that will put me on a tight corner to still want to compromise. Do you understand? A lot of people will come to your station. You will not return because there are some things, if they say it the way it is, the next day you will not even open that radio station. That's why I still believe that somehow, in fact, no matter how unethical some social media platforms are, they are still playing more role, as in better roles than the so-called regular media that are supposed to be there as a watchdog. Because check it, some of these media houses are being funded. He said it when he was starting. He said some of these media houses are being funded by the political elites. The private institution is that if you check very well, maybe somebody somewhere is their godfather and funds are involved. So they have to do the biddings of their masters. We've seen cases in the recent times where something is happening currently in Nigeria, nobody is talking about. People are focusing in India. Why? It's not like they cannot say it the way it is. People are scared. What do I say? And you like, oh, I don't know if you understand what I'm
I
saying.
get it. I get
But
it.
what would be
It
the
will be
goal
very
of the media if the
but-
media
Yeah.
gives up?
Let me
Because
let
do
me
you
come in
also
there.
agree when she said that if you cannot beat them, you join them?
So
And we need to also draw a line, strike a balance between what she's saying and also giving out facts.
no, in the media, there are consequences for bad behavior. If you know the importance of the importance of information in society, you can plunge societies in serious crisis when you give wrong information,
Sure.
when you spread wrong fake informations, misinformation, disinformations. So, and that's why the media need to be properly, guide its activities, and that's why there are rules, there are code of conduct in determining what you should publish and what you should not publish, unlike the social media, where you it is because of these challenges we are facing from social media that the government is also interested. Oh, how do we regulate social media and all that? Like I said, the media, it's part of the fact that they face so much business pressure from private sectors and political elite. Check the content of the newspapers. Even today, the government is still saying, look, please don't plunge this country into a serious crisis. I was in a function yesterday with the Minister of Information where he was even pleading with the journalist media that we should help, shape the narrative, especially within the context of these security challenges we have in society. Because he believed that the media, the legacy media had been very combatant. They've been very hard on the government about the security situations in this country. So the point I'm making is that in spite of the challenges, the media are still doing its job very, very well. He talked about, we need to, expand the media space for us to be able to express ourselves very well and all that. I agree. But the truth of the matter is that for you to be able to appreciate where we are today or where we are coming from, during the military era, we cannot even sit down here the way we are talking now. I'm talking about certain things. So we cannot even, you cannot even enter this studio during the military era and say you're having this kind of conversations.
Remember the days of Abacha?
Exactly. So you cannot even have this conversation. Is either they'll back into your studio and kick you out of this studio, or you're waiting for you outside. As you are coming out, they arrest you and nobody will know where they will take you to. And so the point I'm making is that if you look at where we are coming from, we have made inroad into the democratic space. We're expanding, but like we keep on saying, freedom is not given on the platter of gold. If you look at the history of the Nigeria mass media, the little freedom we have today were not given to us on the platter of gold. It was as a result of the struggle. Look at during the colonial era. Look at the role, the likes of Tony Nahoro, Jakonde, or Olade Odoewu. Look at the role they play in insisting that the colonial must leave. And look at the role the media played during the military era. And look at the role we are playing now. So the little freedom we have today was not given to us by anybody. It was as a result of the struggle. And that's why the media must continue to expand that conversations. We must continue to insist that Nigerians deserve freedom. We deserve freedom of expression. We deserve access to information. Because whether we like it or not, in any democracies around the world, the development of democracy is not about constructing roads, building bridges in Abuja where there are no rivers. It's about freedom. And once we have that freedom, then if you look at what democracy is all about, freedom of expression, freedom of the media are crucial to democratic space. Nobody is saying that. There's nowhere in the question where they say, oh, for you to have democracy, you must have bridges in Mabushi, you must have bridges in Gusape and all that. It's about freedom. So we must also know that freedom is not absolute. We also have responsibility.
Yeah.
responsibility. Yeah, you have freedom of expression, but you have freedom of the press, but your freedom is not a license to destroy others.
Others.
And once you do that, there's consequences for that action. And the law is also very clear. The law of defamation, the law of libel is there. So freedom is not absolute. While we are deserving freedom, we must also ensure that we also have that responsibility to also exercise that freedom in a very responsible manner. There's no freedom in the world, including in the US, that claim to be champion of democracy. Freedom is not absolute.
They also walked their way to where they are today.
Exactly.
But let's get back to the conversation on Cybercrime Act.
If you're watching us on Facebook at official PRIMOG, you could send a few lines and we will take your messages.
Okay, let me get to Angoleka, because a lot of conversation out there. Do you really feel that people are being suppressed, dissent are suppressed these days? How much does it get to you as a journalist and as someone who is opinionated?
Well, I feel the media is being watered down. The media that is supposed to stand as the true media. And that's why you see a lot of new media surfacing. Because when people begin to feel that the people who should do this job of checkmating the government are no longer doing it, maybe they are compromising because of one issue or the other, people have to come out. I feel that information is being suppressed and people are not allowed to express themselves rightly. And even when people express themselves, nothing is being done to an extent. So yes, that's why you see a lot of agitation here and there. We've seen these things, and it's not how do I put it? It's not rocket science. I agree totally that we've evolved, and that's why I keep saying that the democracy we practice today, it's either we try to look for another name for it, or we say maybe partial democracy. It's not complete. It's not democracy in the real sense. There's no freedom of speech. We're not talking about maybe where your right ends and another person's law begins.
So we are free to an extent, is what you're saying.
To an extent.
Let me just hold you up there
please.
just for a minute and take this call. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Please, can you turn down the volume of your radio set? Okay, let's talk if you have done that.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
No, we can say that. So let me off the phone. Let me off the
Please.
You know, journalists today.
You didn't tell us your
We
name.
have good Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we didn't get your name.
Yeah, journalists today.
Okay.
We have two journalists. We have fake journalists. Federal government today, we have fake federal government. We have good federal government. It's all over.
I'm not aware of it.
And journalists, sometimes they have information in all states. They cannot go where this will happen. That person that you have information will send to him that this is what really happened. And then it's not true. And he will send it. This is why some things is affecting journalists sometimes. And also the informants, we give the journalist the truth for what he see, for what he counts. Is it 3 people or 4 people dead? Is it 4 people or 3 people survive? He will give. But some element out of the people that they don't want journalists to say the truth, they're not supposed to say this. That is why if 10 people die, sometimes I will hear in MTA that 30, 80, 50. Why is happening that? Because they don't want to prevent. The journalists that are in truth, they are doing their work. So that time that our forefather receiving freedom from these people that we are alive today, we are still inside the suffering that we receive from the freedom. All things that are happening, journalists is with them. If the war, journalists is there, together with them. That is why we have all these programs today. You'll be surprising that what happened in those days, why are we getting the program today? Because the journalists said what happened before. Because if you war starts, journalists will enter into the war. No man can shoot for enemies. Because no enemy can shoot a journalist because they want journalists to prevent the truth that they are winner. These people, they are no winner. They cannot touch. This is the incident that the forefather keep. Why is not happening today? Because things is gone upside down. What is not happening today? CCTV is not working. If the true CCTV is not working, journalists not working. If you not allow CCTV to work, journalists will work.
All right.
Let journalists work. Let the truth prevent. For this economy that is coming, truth will prevent.
All right.
Truth will prevent.
All right.
But I want to say something to journalists.
We are out
The
of
journalists will
time.
give you solid information for those people that are sending to them. So media, they will receive it and they will using it. It's affecting journalists.
All right. We have to leave it there because of our time. Thank you so much. At least you've made a lot of points there. Let's just quickly run over. I got your point from from the point that you feel that the media is being suppressed.
Yes, for obvious reasons.
Let's get to Dr. Yebosa because we have the Cybercrime Act. You touched on it earlier, and you say we are looking at having this law repealed. What in specific are you looking at?
Now let me quickly respond to my sister before I go into the specific questions. The media are not being deliberately suppressed. No, that's not far from the truth. I've been in the newsroom for the past 32 years, and I can say this in authoritatively. The media, for example, where I've worked as news editor, deputy editor, managing editor, and editorial director. There is nobody that come to the newsroom and say, "Look, don't publish these things." It is a professional editor that will determine what it should be published, or sometimes the interest of the owner of the organizations can also weigh in. But apart from that, nobody. I remember when I was a news editor, when one of my reporter was covering defense. One day, a very senior military officer called me and said, "Look, this is your reporter, and I don't want him in my beat again. Can you replace her for me?" I said, "Look, you don't determine who should cover your beat. I determine that. I'm not going to replace that lady for covering that beat. Is it for unethical conduct?" He said, "No, it's too hard on them." I said, "If it's not too hard on you, I will sack her. Because you can't determine who I should post there. I will determine that. If I'm no longer comfortable with her, then I can replace her. But you can't determine that." And eventually, he said, "Okay, if you can't determine that, we're going to remove your report." I said, "Go ahead." Eventually, he could not do that. So the point I'm making is that if you have a professional journalist, editors running the newsroom, it's professional, it's trained. We have faced several intimidations during the military era, not in democracy, where somebody who can intimidate you. But like I said, there are economic pressures coming from here and there. For example, I give you an example. If MTN give you an advert worth about 200 million naira, and there's a little story that has to do with the MTN, and maybe the line is not running very well, which is not, in a way, might not even be of relevant to the society. And because of the economic pressure, somebody has given you 200 million naira, you drop that story. It's not peculiar to Nigerian. It's like that all over the world. But economic pressure, but people are not deliberately saying, "Don't publish this and don't do that." That as for cybercrime.
Yes, quickly, sir.
Now, as of today, over 143 countries around the world have cybercrime acts. No, they have cybercrime act. The whole idea has to do with the fraud that is taking place within the cyberspace around the world. The last time this FBI, came up with a report that by this year, the whole world would have lost about $28.9 trillion to fraudsters within the cyberspace. Even in Nigeria, the EFCC chairman came up with a report the other day that last year alone, Nigeria lost $800 million to fraudsters within the cyberspace. It was as a result of that the whole world came together and said, "Look, we need to guide against this fraud."
Okay.
And that's why so many countries enacted laws. So why the other law, if another part of the country is challenged towards dealing with the cybercrime, we have our own. But what they could not smuggle into our art about others, they now try to smuggle into our cyber art, saying that. So the point I'm making is that the intention of the cyber art is to deal with the cyber criminal, not to gang the press or not to deprive people from expressing themselves. Because there are other laws within the constitutions that can take care of what the cyber art is saying today. Because if you say something, publish something that's libel, I can go to court and sue you for libel. But so the cyber arts, under section 54 we're talking about, tend to criminalize journalism professions, and that's exactly why we are worried.
Okay.
And that's why the civil society is also very worried. And that's why, in a statement recently by some EU, like US
Foreign missions
issue a statement and also express concern over the cyber acts.
We are totally out of time, and just one quick comment from you on the Nigerian Guild of Editors as they meet in Enugu next week. What will the editors be talking about?
You can give that in 30 seconds.
Nigerian Guild of Editors is concerned about the growing insecurity across the country, and that will engage our attention. We invited the security chiefs, like the director of DSS and National Security Advisors, to come and share with editors about what the government is doing to resolve that growing insecurity across the country. So the issue will occupy our conversations in Enugu
Thank you
next
so
week.
much. Let me quickly take this message from Yemi from Jos, and he says, please, is the man speaking now from NBC? Is he letting us? He is letting us know that the media can never be free. Okay, he is not from NBC.
He is not from NBC.
NBC is only regulating the broadcast industry, not the entire media.
All right. Insecurity is going to dominate that event, but we have to leave it there, and we also have to stay on insecurity. Our quest is to see that we have a secure nation and a nation that everybody can participate
Yes.
in governance.
And also a media space that the journalists can actually
Discharge their responsibility very well.
Please visit our news website because our time is up. PRIMORGnews.org. That is PRIMORGnews.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website www.primorg.org to get all the information about PRIMORG.
And you can watch our videos on PRIMORG TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guest, the General Secretary of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Iyobosa Udiaren. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And the seasoned media consultant, Angoleka Mary Jane Udo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again next week when we produce the last episode of Public Conscience. After the next week episode of Public Conscience, we will be off air after 6 years of production.
We do sincerely appreciate our esteemed listeners and followers all these years as we wrap up the program's production. We believe PRIMORG and MacArthur Foundation have built minds and character against corruption over the years. We have also encouraged citizens to imbibe integrity in the private and public places.
As we draw the curtains on Public Conscience, we will continue to be available on other platforms, and you can catch up on all our activities on our YouTube page, social media handles, and website at Official PRIMORG. I am Adaobi Obiabomo.
And remember that birth registration and birth certificate are free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also remember that you can give us information or hint about corrupt acts through our phone at 09022 656167 or info@primorg.org. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya.